Hello, you're watching Ellie from Ellymentry Papercrafting. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator here in the UK. Today I thought I would break down how to work out the sizes and method for making a box for a specific product. So my product today is this lovely peony blush scented candle in a nice attractive pot. But if I want to give this to somebody for a gift, it's nice to have it in a box. Working out how big to make the box and what size cardstock you need can be a bit challenging, but I'm going to show you how I work that out. Okay, so I could just go ahead, make a box for this particular candle and tell you the measurements, but if you haven't got this one and you've got one a different size, my box won't fit yours, so you need to know how to work it out. So that's the idea today. First of all, you need to measure it. So the way I measure something is to use my grid paper and a ruler together. So something like this with a curved side is quite difficult. So you put it down on your paper and you can't always see exactly where that bottom, the base is. So this is where I take my ruler and I place it right on that line and I move my piece up to it so I know that that's right on the line, and then I read off where it comes to on this side and I write that measurement down. So for this one, my height is 3.5 inches, and I'm going to write it all down. Now I normally write it in a book and I keep it so that if I want to make this again, I've got it, but I'm going to write it on here so you can see how I do it. So I will write height 3.5 inches. So I don't need to keep measuring it and checking it. I know the height is 3.5 inches. So now I need to measure the width. So I would turn it over onto this side because that's the solid. This one's a little bit rickety because it's rounded. So turn it over. Now I can see exactly where that line is because this isn't rounded. So I butt it up to the line and I butt this bit up to the bottom line. So it's right in the corner. So I can read off here. So it's just shy of 3.25 inches. And as this is round, it's going to be the same that way. So I'm going to put width 3.25 inches. Now, obviously, if you work in centimetres, you do this in centimetres, okay? And you work through it that way. So now I've got my measurement. I don't really need this anymore until the end. So working with what I've got here, the next thing I do is work out how much cardstock I'm going to need. So the way you do that is I'm going to take the width first. You need to take the width, which is 3.25, and multiply it by 4. So that equals 13 inches. Then you take the height and you multiply that by 2. So that equals 7 inches. Now, if we could choose cardstock of any size, it would be no problem. We could just cut a piece of cardstock measuring 13 by 7. However, we don't have, our cardstock comes in A4 or letter size, which is just short of 11 inches. It's about, I think it's 11 inches on American letter size, but in Britain it's not even, it's a bit bigger, it's 11 5/8, something like that, but we need 13. So what we need to do is take 2 pieces of cardstock and join them together. Now this is probably where it would start freaking you out and you would think, oh, I can't go there, but you can. the height will stay the same because we know we can get 7 inches. The card measures 8.5 or 8.25 in Britain. So you know you can cut this to 7, all right? So what we're going to do, make the card from 2 pieces and join it at a natural corner where you would fold for the corner of the box. So all we need to do is to divide the width we've got here by 2. So if we divide that by 2, we get 6.5 inches. Now, to join it together, we will actually need a tab to stick it together. So if you add 1/2 inch for a tab, that does make 7 inches. So in this instance, we actually need a piece of card that measures 7 by 7, but we need 2. Okay, so I've chosen smoky slate today. At this stage, I think it's a really good idea to write on my cardstock where the top is, so that as I'm turning my card around, I don't forget. It just makes things easier. So I'm just going to very lightly put the word top in pencil. So I'm going to bring in my trimmer and I'm going to place the word top at the top. I'm going to move my cutting blade right out of the way and place it in my trimmer. So I'm going to butt it up to the top. Always make sure you get it really straight all the way along there. I'm going to measure at the 3.25 mark because that's the width of one of the sides. So just come down with the scoring blade at 3.25. Then I need to add 1/2 inch for a gluing tab. So the 1/2 inch will be at this end. So if I just move this along and put that at the 1/2 inch mark, I now have 2 pieces here that both measure 3.25 inches, and I'll just prove that to you. There's my score line and there's the 3.25 inch mark. Okay, so if you want to do it all in one go, you can just do it like this. Go to 3.25, and twice that will be 6.5. So move that up to the 6.5 mark. Okay, but I just tend to use this side for the 1/2 inch because I find it easier. So that's your 2 pieces scored, and that's the width. But now we just need to make one score line so this is the height of the box. So we're going to make 2. So we need the part to go down the side and the part to go at the bottom. So all we do is turn this so that the top word is to the left hand side, and we're simply going to score at 3.5 because 3.5 is the depth of our candle. So move top to this side and measure 3.5 and score. So that's all the measuring, scoring done for the base. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my bone folder and burnish all those score lines. Okay, so get all those done, and you must make sure when you're making a box to score all these really well. Burnish them really well so you get really good crisp corners. Okay, now the bone folder's made with this little sort of shape in it here, and that's where you press down on that part, so it'll, and the reason is this, because it's angled, the point won't dig into your card. It's sitting above the card. So this is where we will stick the two pieces together, okay? And this is where we will stick the box together once it's stuck in the middle. But just before I do that, I'm going to cut away this part of the tab here because we don't need the bulk. So I'm just going to take my snips and cut up here up to the join, sorry, up to the first score line. And then I'm just going to take a little bit off there because it helps to, when you put the box together, it helps if you just have a little bit of a mitered edge there. And I'm going to do the same here. So now we're going to stick these two together. Now I prefer to use a wet glue when I'm making boxes, and the one I'm using is our Tombow multi-purpose liquid glue, and this is very good glue for all my projects. And I just put mine into a finer tip applicator because I find it easier to use. So I'm just going to put some on that tab and then just spread it out a bit more. Don't over glue because when you press this down it will spread out to the sides. So just line up this piece of card, making sure it's really straight down there. And then make sure you press it down like so. Okay. If any glue does come out, just run your nail down the side there and it will dry off very quickly. And when it dries, if you do have any glue, if you just rub it like that, it'll come off your finger. Just pop that into the bin. So now we have this. So then we need to cut down these two bits. Now I tend to use my long scissors for cutting these because it's just a bit easier. So remember, we're always cutting the bottom, not the top. And having that on there is really good because it makes you remember what you're doing. So as I bring this up, you should be able to see the box coming together like so. Okay, now to make it easier for all these bits to fold in, I like to cut tabs in these. Okay, so if we cut that one and that one, just cut that, miter that a little bit more up to the top. So, now I find if you miter the alternate ones, you get a better finish. Because the height is slightly more than the width, it's a good idea just to take a little bit from the bottom of this. So you only need to take away about 1/4 of an inch. So if you bring this in so that that lies on the 1/4 inch mark. Now you can do this in 2 goes because remember this is 13 inches and our trimmer isn't quite that long. So I'm just going to come down like so, and then the bottom one think the best thing to do is stick this together first, and then we'll see how the bottom works. So just pop the glue along here. And then you can see where we've got the straight sides and the mitered ones. So I would pop one of these in first, and then the two sides, and then that piece, so that the piece that shows on the bottom is dead straight and the same in the middle. Okay, so before we stick that together, while it's still flat, I'm going to rub out where I put top. And basically that is the box finished. So I'm putting that piece that's dead square in there. I'm going to put glue on. Sorry, you can't see that. Those four corners like so. And it's a good idea actually if you pop your candle in at this stage and you've got something to press against. So pop that side in. Like so, and this actually really helps to strengthen the base of your card, of your box. It's got lots of layers of cardstock and glue, and when the glue dries, that actually makes quite a good layer too. So then if you turn the whole thing over and put your candle in, put it in upside down, because you can turn it around then using the base like this. And then just get your finger in. If you've got any little bits of glue, you can just collect that up with your finger, and like I say, it'll rub off and it'll dry clear, so if there is any left behind, no one will see it. And then you can just go into the corners with your finger. So that is the base of the box finished, and it fits the candle with just a little bit of room. It's not going to rattle, but there's enough room for you to put your fingers in and take it out. All right. It's nothing worse than having a box that is actually too tight so that you can't get your fingers in to get something out. All right. So it needs to be almost exactly, but just a little bit of breathing space. So that's making the actual base of the box. So when it comes to making the lid for our box, we need to think about the measurement across the top and down each side. Now, with this box being 3.5 inches deep, it means I would need, if I wanted to make the lid the same depth as the box, I would need 3.5 inches, 3.5 inches, and 3.25 inches. And then I'd need to make that across both sides, and an A4 sheet or a letter size sheet would not be big enough. So I've decided to go with the largest piece of square cardstock I have, which would be 8.25 by 8.25, because 8.25 is the measurement of a standard piece of A4. It's 8.25 by about 11 5/8, something like that. So I can't go any bigger than 8.25, so I've cut that down. So I have a piece that measures 8.25 inches square. So 8.25. So I've got to make that work for my lid. So if you remember, the width is 3.25. So that's the measurement from there to there. So if I take the 3.25 away from the 8.25, my answer is 5 inches. So I've got 5 inches spare. So if I divide that into two, it's 2.5 inches. So my lid is going to come down each side at 2.5 inches. So if I just show you that with a ruler, you'll see it's just an inch short of the bottom. Now I think that's quite a nice size for a lid, so I'm happy with that. So for my lid, I'm going back to the original candles design. There is this lovely peony here. Now that reminded me so much of our polished pink and the beautiful sort of rose shape on our artistically inked stamp set. So I'm using the rose and the polished pink ink, and all I'm going to do is just randomly stamp across the lid, or the piece of card I'm going to use as my lid, with the polished pink and that stamp. I'm finished with the pink, so I'm just going to pop that to one side, and I'm going to bring in the smoky slate. And if you remember, smoky slate was the colour we used for the card base, or the box base I should say. And then from the same stamp set, I'm bringing in the small leaf, and that's what I'm going to use to stamp in these gaps at the top. So I'm going to use the first and second generation stamping, and it's absolutely fine for your leaves to go across your flowers. That is absolutely no problem at all. So fill in your gaps with your little leaf shapes. So that's all my stamping done. Now the scoring for this, I'm going to do by using my Stampin' Up trimmer. So let's just bring that in. The trimmer's really versatile, so you can cut and use the scoring tool as well. It doesn't cut, it just leaves a score mark. So this measures 3 1/4 square. I said we had 2.5 inches spare each side. If I score this bang on my 2.5 inch mark and fold it down, it will be the same size as my box. So the lid will be too small, it will be the same side. I won't be able to slide it off and on. So I need to make this part of it slightly bigger than this. And it's really, really a tiny bit bigger. So the way I deal with this, so here's the 2.5 inch mark. Now that's the inches here, these are the centimetres. Now just above there are the millimetres. So I'm going to use both of these today just to be a bit confusing. So I'm putting it at the 2.5, and then I'm moving it back just to the next millimetre mark. So it's probably 0.5 millimetre back from there, but because I've got that line, that's the one I'm going to go to. So I've pulled it back about 0.5 millimetre, and then I'm going to score. And then I'm turning it 180 degrees, coming back to that 2.5 mark, and then pulling it back again till it gets to that millimetre mark up there. So I have literally moved it 0.5 millimetre. And then I'm coming round again on the 2.5, bring it back to that little millimetre mark and score again. And then the last size onto the 2.5, bring it back to that millimetre mark. So when you think about it, if you've done it 0.5 millimetre smaller all the way around, you've actually made it 2mm smaller, and that just gives you that little bit of room to slide it off and on. So if we look on the other side, you should be able to see those score lines. So I'm going to burnish all of those now. So once they're all burnished, we're now going to start to cut up to make this into the lid. So I like to use a nice big pair of scissors for this. And I'm going to cut up just to the inside of that score line here and here. And then I'm going to turn it round and do the same on this side. Okay, then I'm going to fold that up out of the way because I'm going to mitre these 4 edges. And I don't want to cut the wrong one. I'm only going to take a very small amount out, so about less than 1/8 of an inch at the bottom, and then take it right up to that bit there. And then on here, if you're right-handed, you'll probably find it easier to do it like this. Cut off the right-hand side and then turn it over and cut off the right-hand side again. That's the trimming up done. So you end up with this. So these tabs are going to stick inside like so. So what I tend to do is I will stick one side first, and then I'll do that bit when it's on the box. And that way you'll find that your box lid will fit much better. So I'm going to start by putting some glue on this tab, and I go all the way around the outside and a little bit in the middle. Bring this side up, put the tab inside, and make sure that this is what is at a perfect right angle. So if you run your finger along here, you can feel that this part is fitting and butting up exactly right. And just spend a little bit of time making sure that that is perfectly squared up. And bring your bone folder over it. If I move this out of the way, hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing. I'm making sure that that's well stuck there, and then just bringing my bone folder over and making sure all the glue is spread out. And then I'm taking this part and I'm going to do the same thing again. So when you've allowed that to set up, to dry, bring your box in, and I find it easier if I place the box upside down, like so. Sorry, let's put my lid down and then put my box like so inside. And then make sure it's fitting around here. And then if I bring these sides round, I can then make sure that this fits nice and snugly. Not too tight because it does need to come off, but snugly. Okay, so you can just pull it up and down and make sure. So what I will do is wrap this round so that it's really nice and tight here. And put some glue I'll just turn it up that way so you can see where I'm putting the glue. The glue's going here, like so. And I'm bringing this over and making sure that it really hugs my box. I'm going to stand it up because it's easier for me to press against the candle that's inside the box like this, to make sure that that's stuck down really well, like so. Then I can pop this over and glue this side down. So pop my glue on here. And then I'm going to turn it up that way to make sure that the weight of the candle sticks that other piece down. And while that's drying off, I'm going to show you just the finishing bit I'm going to do. So on the sides of the box lid, I'm just going to put this around to just break it up a little bit. And this is a piece of smoky slate cardstock to match the base, which I've cut 2 strips at 3/4 of an inch wide. And this is just the width of a piece of card anyway, which is 8 1/4. So you need 2, and I've used the Evening Evergreen classic stamp pad and the double leaf already, and I've already stamped around it, and it comes out like a very dark greeny grey colour because grey is the base. And then I'm going to take that smaller leaf that we used previously, and I'm going to come in and put some smaller leaf designs on top. Now this is the same, no, sorry, I used the smoky slate, the same colour, so that we've got a different, we've got a contrast of colours here. But what I'm doing is I'm going over the smoky slate in a lot of places to give it that two-tone effect. I don't want for this all to be the dark green, but I want you to see a lot of it, because against the pink it does look really nice. So if I bring this in, this is all nice and set up now. It's all nice and dry. Now if I show you how nicely this fits, this box lid, you see it comes off really, it comes off easily, but it's not going to fall off. It is, you know, you might have to sort of work a little bit to actually get it on, but it's not really hard. If you make it really easy to go on, it will come off very quickly and it won't sit nice. So that looks lovely, I think you'll agree. But just to break this up, if you put this border around it, it just looks something special. So the way to do this, to get it right, you can't measure it because each one of these will be fractionally bigger or smaller than the one before. So this one is 3 1/4 and another 1/16. If I measure this one, it might be, this is exactly 3 1/4. So it's really hard to measure this, so don't even try. So the way I deal with this is to butt this one up here and come around and bend it with my finger. Okay, and once you've bent it like that, move it across and bend it again. Okay, and then I'm just going to cut this off to about 1/2 inch. It's not critical, but as long as I got enough to use as a tab, like so. Okay, So then I'm going to take my next piece, put some glue on my tab, and stick those two together. All right. Now do make sure that this is dry before you start to play with it, because if it's not, this won't work. So give yourself a little bit of time, hold it together until it's well and truly stuck. And as this dries, it actually looks like a darker shade of grey, but that's fine. We just want the contrast between the two. While you're waiting, you can actually take your bone folder and burnish that fold we made. And you can do the same here too. Burnish this one where you glued it together on the fold. Now, if it's a tiny little bit out, it's really easy to just bring your scissors and just snip the top there to take off that little tiny edge. Okay, and now we can go ahead and do our next fold. So that's going to go down there, bring it over and fold that bit, and then across here, that bit's coming up there, so just meet it, make the two meet, and then you can go back and burnish these two here. So make sure you've got two really sharp creases. And square it up. And again, you can cut this down to a little 1/2 inch tab, like so. So then let's just bring this back round, make sure you get the right piece to fit all the way round, like so. And that fits beautifully. And then I would just start by gluing this piece down. Now I want to make sure that I do get this in the middle, like so. And it's easy, still easier to leave it on the box to do this. So if I leave it like that and apply glue to the back of this, you don't need too much glue. So bring it to the halfway mark and press that down. You can use your bone folder if you like. And then there you have a lid that fits perfectly to our box, slides off and on easily, but isn't too loose. Now, what I should have done, and I completely forgot, was while it was still flat, it's a good idea to put a couple of little thumb holes in, so that when you pull it up you've got something to cut into. Now because this is a big box, you can get away with doing it afterwards. You just need to find a circle punch. I can actually do it on this side so it's easier for you to see. Find a circle punch that's a good size for the box, and cut half a circle out, and try to get this area here exactly the same distance, and then you just punch out half a circle. And then if I do it on the other side like so, you can measure it if you're really particular, or you can just eyeball it. So I'm going to go like so. So they're opposite sides to each other. And I used to get really hung up about this and think, oh, it's got to be perfect. How will I line it up? But to be honest, it's going to be on the box like so. So they're not going to be together. So no one will know that that's not exactly lined up if it's not. But it's very close. Now, if you want to add a label for the top, then you can go ahead. So I'm going to do something like that. So I've taken the lovely die here from the Ornate Frames dies. Beautiful pack of dies those are. I've cut it out in the basic white cardstock, and I've stamped it with this lovely greeting, "I love being your friend," from the Carmine Camellia. And again, I use the polished pink to match stamping on here. I've punched a little hole in there, and I was looking for some ribbon, but ribbon's going to be too big for this. So I found, some years ago, we did a whole suite called, oh, I think it's what we love, what you love, something like that, or what I love, I can't remember now. And in this little suite, was this little box full of embellishments and things, and amongst it was this very, very thin, almost cotton-like twine. So I'm going to use some of this to attach this to my box. I think we just need something very fine. So I'm putting a good length of it out because I want to use this. So I've folded that into 4. That's what I think will be a good measurement to put through there. I'm going to get my tweezers, put the tweezers through the hole, grab the twine and pull it through like so. Oops, try not to pull it all the way through. And then put the tweezers in the loop and use that to pull the rest of it through like so. So I get this lovely dangling kind of effect. And then I'm just going to pop this just anywhere. It doesn't matter where it goes, but just, I might actually bring this round to give a little kind of loop there. And I'm just going to secure that with one of our glue dots, which come on a roll like this. And if I just put one, now the glue dots are on here, so it's just there. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. So what I do is I tend to invert that so that I can press it onto my project like so. And then if I put it off gently, the glue dot is there. And then if I pop this on top like so, it will stick itself down. And then I'm just going to cut these ends at different lengths. Okay, so I'm not going to be too fussy about that. So when you put it up, it will slightly move, but not too much. It won't fall off the end or anything. So that's my box for the peony candles. So if I take that out and just show you it up that way, you'll see how all the colours blend in together. And this was exactly the design. You would think that this was made to go with our papers, or our papers were made to go with this, and it's not. It was just pure coincidence that I saw this and thought, that is artistically inked. So that's today's project. I do hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope it's helped you to work out how to make a box to fit your particular project. So please do let me know if you use this method and how you get on with it, and if there's any advice you need, if you'd like me to help you with anything. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you again sometime. Bye bye for now.